What a main event that was. What a main event. Between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. That unsanctioned lights out match between. I was trying so hard to find a correct thumbnail to describe that main event between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. And man, that just shows you that two women's wrestlers can be violent, can be physical. That was a hell of a match, and good on both. I was clapping right after that match was over. But hello everybody, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. I'm your host, Joe Two in Love, here with your AEW Dynamite review for St. Patrick's Day Slam on March 17th, 2021 review. It was a fun holiday edition of Dynamite. We had some quality matches, quality storytelling. We got some news on MJF's new stable. We had Pentagon versus Cody Rhodes, and of course that great main event between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, which I'll get into in a bit. But if you're new to the podcast, like and subscribe. Click on that bell. But before I get into the review, the news I want to touch upon first is Impact, because the working relationship between Dynamite or AEW and Impact had a pay-per-view Saturday Sacrifice, and in the main event it was Rich Swann versus Moose, and it was title for title. The winner faces Kenny Omega in another title for title matchup next month at Rebellion, another Impact Wrestling pay-per-view. But Rich Swann, I saw the highlights, won in a fun match. So it'll be Kenny Omega versus Rich Swann next month at Rebellion. That's an interesting match to look forward to. So touching upon that, let's get into the review for Dynamite, shall we? So the show started off with, in big way, Pentagon, Penta El Zero Miedo, but I prefer to call him Pentagon. First, Cody Rhodes. This was a fun way to start the show. Penta started aggressive, a Cone Hero to the outside of the ring while Cody was making his entrance. Like I said, aggressive start. They were fighting on the outside. And then later, after we got back from break, it was a top rope Hurricanrana by Cody, getting Pentagon back into the ring. Nice spot. And then there was a piece of the barricade set up, pinned from the ringside area to the ring. And Cody did a suicida to Pentagon, which launched him into this piece of barricade that was propped up. Another nice spot. And then Cody went for a crossroads for near fall. And then a verb breaker for another 2 count. Then Pentagon went for his breaking of the arm breaker move. And then, the finish was strange. So then Pentagon was taunting after that, after he did the move, and then all of a sudden Cody rolls him up for the win, and just a weird finish to a anticipated matchup. Afterwards, Pentagon, he attacked Cody after the bell. Again, going for that injured shoulder, which was targeted throughout the match. And then Dustin and the Nightmare Family, except for QT Marshall, came out. And then about a few minutes later, when Penta was going up the rampway, Marshall came out to ask the Nightmare Family and Cody if he's okay. And just a weird finish and to this anticipated match. I thought Penta should have won. I don't know where Cody and the stuff's going for it. It's just Cody is he has so much going on right now. He finished that Go Big Show season, I think, and then obviously he has his newborn child, and then coming up, and then it's just need a little break from Cody, and it's just when I hear Cody's theme and still with the Snoop Dogg, he almost feels different with the Snoop Dogg remix instead of the old theme, which is strange now. Now, with the Go Big Show season finished up, hopefully he takes some time off with the shoulder injury, and I don't know, but overall it was a quality match, I guess. So then we had a Young Bucks interview backstage by Alex Marvez. Excuse me. They were asked about their upcoming match with Phoenix and Pac. And Matt Jackson talked about how he was beat by Phoenix last week, but luckily these are tag titles. And he talked about how last year he beat his brother Nick as well. And then they were interrupted by Don Callis, who admits that he was faking the eye injury that he claims the Young Bucks suffered, and they admit that Kenny Omega's changed, and he said he wanted to give a gift for their father who's beaten up by MJF and Jericho. So then he presented a shirt, which I didn't see it at first, but after looking at it again, it was a shirt that said, "Don't slap leg when kicking." So that was a nice little jab at WWE self-fining people for slapping their legs when doing a super kick, which, I mean, it is what it is. So then, Callis said that he doesn't see the Young Bucks who are in New Japan, and he told them that maybe they need to change and deep down and find those Young Bucks of old. So there was that nice little segment. I'm still not sure where maybe there's a swerve happening that we saw last week with the Inner Circle and MJF Sable. But I don't know, we'll see. But whether this ultimately culminates in the Kenny Omega, Good Brothers, and the Bucks reforming, I'm not sure, but we'll see. Also, speaking of which, I meant to get to it as well, but on Sacrifice Saturday, the Impact pay-per-view, the Good Brothers, who were then the Impact Tag Team Champions, face Juice Robinson and David Finlay, guys who've come from New Japan to Impact, beat the Good Brothers on Saturday night for the Impact Tag Team Championship. So we didn't see the Good Brothers with the tag titles, though, tonight when we saw them in the match later on. So then we had Jade Cargill in their first one-on-one match in AEW. First time we've seen her since that tag team match versus Cody and Red Velvet when she teamed with Shaq. She faced off against Danny Jordan, who is one of my favorites in AEW. She's fairly green. She's been mostly on Dark. She has a ways to go still, but she's finding a little bit of a groove. But this is a nice showing by Cargill and posting her strength on Jordan. And then she landed her chicken wing facebuster finisher for the win. Dominant fit showing by Cargill. I mean, as she moves away from Shaq and that circus, she's coming along. And she's kind of growing on to me because that circus with her, Brandy, Cody, and Shaq, I'm just glad it's over. So, just dissecting in this match showed well. So, go for Jade Cargill. And then, probably the most, besides the women's match, probably the most intriguing part of the show. MJF Sable They went out to the ring. FTR, Shawn Spears, and Tony Blanchard and Wardlow came out to the ring to address AEW and their actions last week. So, Tony first took the microphone and they described their attack on the Inner Circle last week, how Sammy G was wearing a chair, how Hager took 2 bottles to the face, how Jericho got beaten with a bat, how Santana Ortiz were both handcuffed, and they talked about how the Inner Circle is then the best group in AEW. Well, now he proclaims that their group is now the baddest group in AEW. So then MJF took the microphone. Says that he's now Judas, little jab to Jericho and his music. So he explained his devised plan of how he pretended to like Jericho, how it was no picnic for him, no walk in the park, how I didn't write all of it, but then he went over the lineup in his group, explained Wardlow, how he's the baddest big man in AEW, how he's the best bodyguard, insurance policy in AEW. Whenever Shawn Spears says Shawn Spears is a veteran's veteran, a man's man, how if you don't agree with him, you'll eat your words and take a chair shot as well. Talked about FTR being the best tag team on the planet. Then he went over to himself and said that when it's said and done, Jericho isn't the GOAT in professional wrestling, that he'll go down as the GOAT. And that he said they're the Pinnacle. They will take all the gold, every title in AEW. And he had a message for Jericho. He looked right into the camera, said it's been 6 months, so he wants to get it right. And he says, I'm better than you, and you know it. A lot to digest there. A lot to digest. The Pinnacle. I like the name for MJF stable. The Pinnacle. Interesting. MJF, Shawn Spears, FTR, and Wardlow. I am really just intrigued to see where it goes. Now, I feel like because they made the match for next week that it's going to be Shawn Spears and FTR and a 6-man tag versus Varsity Blondes and Dante Martin of Top Flight. So, I imagine that over time, we're going to see some wins from the Pinnacle, and eventually the Inner Circle comes back and we get this big feud, and potentially with things getting better in the world as far as openings are concerned, that perhaps we get blood and guts soon between the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle. Should be interesting. So then we had the Matt Hardy brand, Matt Hardy, Private Party, and his newest signees, the Butcher and the Blade, versus Bear Country and Jurassic Express. This was clusterous. I mean, I don't really like 10-man tags, especially given not that much time, because not everybody can get their stuff in, and eventually there's going to be a big brawl, and it's just odd. This was okay for what it was. Luchadors had a very good showing. Bear Country, I haven't seen much of them. I've seen them a little bit on Dark. They remind me a bit of kind of a mix of American Alpha and Heavy Machinery in NXT. They kind of remind me of a bit of a mix, but they're new, they're young. Can we hopefully see more of them in the ring? But those are my 2 cents on Bear Country. So, Private Party hit Gin and Juice on Marco Stunt, and Matt Hardy hit a Twist of Fate for the win. So, Matt Hardy and his brand get a win. We saw some dissension, some arguing between Bear Country and Jurassic Express after match. But I didn't pay too much attention to this match, so sorry about that. But was okay. And Butcher and Blade with Matt Hardy. It's kind of confusing. I mean, I enjoyed Butcher and the Blade with Kingston, but now that Kingston's reformed with John Moxley, it's left Butcher and Blade without a leader, without a voice, and aligning them with Matt Hardy will take some getting used to, but I mean, we'll see, because these two are talented. They should be in the hunt for tag team gold, but we'll see how they go from here. So then we had Christian Cage speak backstage with Dasha, and he went down what makes a workhorse, and he described Well, he's not a workhorse, he's the workhorse. How he's going to outwork everyone. Because that's what his t-shirt said when he debuted at Revolution. Outwork everyone. And so we went over his kind of altercation with Kenny Omega last week. He described that he'll need to get some wins, he'll need to get some momentum before he can get to Kenny Omega, but he'll see him down the road. So we got that, and he gave his answer why he's in AEW is for his legacy and to outwork everyone. So, good promo by Christian Cage. I mean, it's good to see him in AEW. He's always been a good promo. I mean, it's good that he said he's going to need some wins because, I mean, for those complaining that, well, he's going to step right in and get a top shot immediately, that's not how it's going to go. He's going to get some wins, find himself in the rankings. I mean, Double or Nothing is 2 months away. So, perhaps, yeah, we get some wins for Christian. You know, he beat some good competition, and I mean, thinking about it is kind of weird for them to face off at Double or Nothing, but I mean, he hasn't had a match in AEW yet, so perhaps it could work timeline wise, but if he works toward it, I wouldn't mind it. Just strange to think about, at Double or Nothing, Omega versus Christian Cage. Now it could happen before then, but yeah, it's weird, kind of strange to think about. So then we had Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus the Good Brothers. So Kingston came out and he was ambushed on the stage area by the Good Brothers. And then Moxley came out. They had a brawl before the bell. They were fighting on the outside. And then eventually they got into the ring. Most of this match were them isolating Kingston. Moxley, his shoulder was taped up, showing the effects of the barbed wire death match. Excuse me. So Moxley came in, hit a hot tag. He hit a big clothesline to Carl Anderson, followed up with a pile driver for a near fall. And then Carl Anderson always has a beautiful spine buster. His spine buster for near fall. Kingston, he isolated Doc Gallows on the outside. They were back and forth, and then Moxley rolled up Anderson for the win. Afterwards, he was beaten down by Good Brothers after the bell. And then Kenny Omega came out and then set up a seat in front of Moxley. But he was attacked by Kingston. And then they tried to break the leg of Kingston with the sandwich chair stomp spot. And then they tried to injure Moxley as well. But the Young Bucks came out for the save. And it was strange. The Good Brothers and Moxley try to hold up the two-piece sign, try to calm them down, try to rejoice, and the Young Bucks weren't having it. They weren't having it. They didn't join in the Too Sweet sign, so they walked away. Moxley fended off the Good Brothers and Omega with a bat, and that was how the segment went off the air. Or that's how the segment ended. I mean, there's probably going to be a swerve or something we don't know about. I mean, the way I see it, it's either one of two ways. It's either Young Bucks versus Good Brothers for the tag team titles, or we get the swerve and Good Brothers, Young Bucks, and Omega reform. That's the way I see it. But this feud between Omega and Moxley is not over. Perhaps, I mean, I'm not sure because we know that Christian is eyeing Omega and this feud in Moxley is not over. Perhaps we get one more match out of Moxley and Omega, and then we get Christian and Kenny at Double or Nothing in May, or maybe a triple threat out of three. I mean, who knows? But interesting to think about. So then we had Sting and Darby come out for an interview. It was really more a Darby Allin interview with Sting there. Darby was asked about his match the previous week with Scorpio Sky, how Darby was still limping, and Darby talked about how he wanted to pay homage to the greatest TNT champion of all time, Brody Lee. So he called out the Dark Order, issued an open challenge. So then Lance Archer and Jake Roberts came out, and Archer belittled Darby Allin and Sting, and Jake took the microphone, said a few things, and then so clearly he's gunning for Darby Allin and the TNT Championship. That's what I think. But so next week we got Alex Marvez asked the Dark Order who's going to take the open challenge next week, and it was announced that Darby Allin will face John Silvers for the TNT Championship next week, which should be an interesting match. I don't see Silvers winning. I mean, I do think we're going to see Archer versus Darby Allin in the future. Maybe at Double Nothing, we'll see. But so then we had kind of a filler match. We had Phoenix versus Angelico to get to the main event. I was a little confused, considering that they're vying for the tag team titles, but I was confused when we get Phoenix and Pac versus TH2. I didn't see Jack Evans there. Maybe he was there, maybe not. Maybe he dealt with some issue, but I didn't see Jack Evans, and a little confused why this was a singles match. But nonetheless, it was okay. Phoenix and Angelico had a nice back and forth. Phoenix won with his driver for the win. Good match. Good momentum for Phoenix and Pac going into their tag team title shot against the Bucks. Then comes the main event. Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. Now, what I tried to allude to in the thumbnail and the beginning of the episode was, women's wrestling, we know some of the flaws, and as we see in some of the wrestlers in WWE, and just some that there are some women's wrestlers that are like cautious, like scared to take a bump, and just trying to go through the motions sloppy. But this match showed how good and how violent actually women's wrestling could be, and also, because I'm sure there's going to be some idiots talking about it. Well, two beautiful women wrestlers in AEW fought in a violent, lights out, unsanctioned match. And how can you not love that? It's just good to see women's wrestling where the women aren't scared to take a bump and they're violent. And I'm not saying this should happen all the time. I'm saying it was good to see. And it's hard to do this match justice because hats off to Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. But so this was lights out match. It was taped beforehand, apparently, or already done. So physical match. Was an error crash by Britt Baker on the rampway. A chair was thrown into the face of Baker by Rosa on the outside. Then she's wailing on her with chair shots. They were fighting on the outside. There was two tables set up, one by Reba the other by Rosa. Then Britt Baker hit her curb stomp on Rosa on the steel steps, which opened up Rosa. She was busted open. And then was a superplex as they got back from break by Britt Baker on the chair, on a pile of chairs in the ring. The other thing, too, is they were in their ring gear. I thought perhaps maybe they come out in street clothes. I mean, it's a unsanctioned lights out match, but this one made it a little more grueling. The fact that they were in their ring gear and the bumps they were taking. So Reba got a ladder from underneath the ring. She tossed it in the ring, and Baker was slammed face first onto the ladder and for a near fall. And then Baker, with the ladder sandwich in between her and propped up in the bottom turnbuckle, Rosa hit a baseball drop kick to Baker, which busted her open. Just, I can't describe it. The shots of Britt with blood all over her face. It's not something you see much in women's wrestling. I will say that. And so there were thumbtacks set up after Baker hit a flatliner on Rosa on the ladder. And then Rosa hit a top rope Death Valley driver on the Britt on the ladder for near fall. There was a chair set up, and Rosa was stomped into the ladder for a near fall. Then, like I said, the tags were set up in the middle of the ring. Britt Baker was powerbombed onto these thumbtacks. I mean, jeez. I mean, the other thing to think about too is what was Adam Cole thinking probably watching this match. I mean, seeing his girl going through this match, I have no idea what he was probably thinking, but oh boy, he might have been proud, but at the same time, just terrified. So, like I said, Britt was powerbombed through attacked, and then Britt applied the lockjaw, and then Rosa countered, and they rolled into the tax, which allowed Britt to let go of the lockjaw. And then, so Reba was knocked out. She was knocked off the ring apron into one of the tables. And then on the other table, on the other side of the ring, Rosa hit a Thunder Driver off the ring apron, to Britt Baker through the table for the win. I mean, just wow. 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 What a women's match. Definitely the most violent women's match I've ever seen. Probably. I mean, I saw. I mean, I saw Edge and Mick Foley at WrestleMania 22. Their match, that hardcore match. I saw the match between Edge and Mick Foley versus Dreamer and Terry Funk from One Night Stand in 06. This match very much reminded me of those two grueling matches. But for women, I mean, this match just... Now, it was probably not for everyone, but how can you not respect both women after what they put themselves through in this match, especially Britt Baker, probably her best showing, and she earned more respect, I would say, probably out of everyone. I mean, Rosa is great, but people have had mixed opinions about Britt Baker since she came in AEW. This match just uplifted her respect level, and just can't say enough. But so that was the review, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you haven't seen the match, I recommend you do. Was a violent, good match. But anyway, so there's that. I'll be back next week. Sports topics as well as another AEW Dynamite review. But thank you all. I am Joe 2 in Love. Like and subscribe. And peace.